She's on her knees in the dark, phone flashlight clamped between her teeth. Tape. Under the bottom drawer. A second phone she was never meant to find. It lights up. A name that isn't hers. 3 years. 3 years of being told she was too sensitive, too jealous, crazy. And every single time, she was the one who apologized. Tonight, the screen tells a different story. Tonight, she stops apologizing. She doesn't scream. She doesn't cry. She opens her camera and starts recording because she just understood something. He didn't fall out of love. He ran a system. And she's about to learn its name. Number 1 on our list is gaslighting, a systematic assault on your perception of truth. This pattern takes its name from Patrick Hamilton's 1938 Victorian play, Gaslight, where a husband systematically dims the lamps in their home and insists his wife is imagining the change to convince her she is losing her mind. In everyday relationships, this starts small. A partner denies a conversation happened, flatly stating, "I never said that," or "You're remembering it wrong." These minor denials slowly erode your confidence until you begin questioning your own sanity. Under Jennifer Freyd's betrayal trauma framework, this is a deliberate rewriting of reality by a trusted attachment figure, forcing the target to develop an adaptive blindness to the abuse, just to keep the connection intact. It sits first because once your anchor to reality is severed, every other manipulation pattern becomes infinitely easier to execute. In second place, love bombing overrides critical defense systems through a calculated flood of affection. This pattern weaponizes adoration, constant contact, gifts, and accelerated intimacy to force a rapid attachment. Clinical psychologist Margaret Singer famously documented this behavior as a core recruiting tactic used by high-control cults to dismantle a recruit's analytical thinking. In personal relationships, the speed of the affection matters far more than the sentiment itself because scrutiny has no time to catch up. By saturating the target's daily life before objective evaluation can occur, the manipulator exploits psychological vulnerability, turning emotional highs into dependency. This overwhelming warmth acts as the initial hook, establishing an ideal standard of happiness that the victim will spend months or years trying to reclaim once the inevitable devaluation begins. It sits second because this rapid bonding secures a powerful hold, converting initial vulnerability into permanent psychological dependence. Number 3 on our list, intermittent reinforcement turns unpredictable behavior into a powerful psychological trap. This biological roller coaster originates in B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning research. By placing pigeons in a box where pressing a key delivered food only at random, unpredictable intervals, known as a variable ratio schedule, Skinner discovered that unpredictable rewards created the most compulsive, obsessive habits. The subjects worked significantly harder and longer because they could never predict the next payout. In an abusive relationship, this behavioral conditioning manifests as emotional whiplash. A partner endures a cold, cruel week, followed by a sudden, perfect day of total validation. This pattern shifts your focus entirely. Instead of judging the overall mistreatment, you begin chasing the next unpredictable reward. The human brain, starved of warmth, releases a massive dopamine spike when the validation finally returns, cementing a physical addiction. You stay not because the relationship is healthy, but because the agonizing inconsistency makes leaving feel almost impossible. Number 4 on our list, triangulation, expands the manipulation from private confusion into a social game of comparison and insecurity. This pattern operates by introducing a third person, an ex, a family member, or a coworker, directly into your dynamic. Rather than resolving conflict, the manipulator channels tension through a three-party structure, a mechanism rooted in Murray Bowen's family systems theory. By redirecting anxiety away from the core issue, they force you into indirect competition for their favor. You remain exhausted, busy managing manufactured rivals instead of recognizing the underlying trap. This shifts the pressure from a closed room into an unstable social hierarchy, making your peace of mind dependent on winning an engineered race against others. 5th on our list, future faking turns hope into a weapon of control. It operates through repeated assurances of change, commitment, or stability that sound completely sincere, but function entirely as delay tactics. The promised future becomes a leash, keeping you invested in a postponed life. This calculating behavior reflects the dark triad framework established by Paul Husson Williams in 2002, which identifies a core of manipulativeness, callousness, and self-enhancement. While these traits show up across various relationships, clinical data from the National Epidemiologic Survey reveals that 6.2% of adults meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, where strategic self-presentation is a primary tool. By manufacturing an idealized tomorrow, the manipulator ensures you stay compliant today, chasing a horizon that constantly recedes the closer you get to it. Sixth on our list, DARVO turns confrontation into a trap. When a target finally gathers the courage to speak up, expecting truth to clear the air, the manipulator activates a highly effective defensive counter-strategy. Coined by psychologist Jennifer Freyd in 1997 during her landmark research on betrayal trauma, the acronym stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender. Instead of offering accountability, the perpetrator flatly denies the behavior, launches a personal assault on the accuser's credibility, and manipulates the dynamic until the accuser is forced onto the defensive. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about the original betrayal, but about the victim's supposed instability, anger, or malice. A 2017 empirical study by Harsey Zurbriggen and Freyd validated the system, proving that exposure to DARVO significantly increases victim self-blame while decreasing perpetrator accountability. In practice, the person who committed the offense successfully portrays themselves as the injured party. It sits sixth because it weaponizes the victim's attempt to seek justice, turning their voice into a liability. Confrontation does not end the manipulation. It simply hands the offender a script to make you apologize for the pain they caused. And finally, in seventh place, the trauma bond acts as the ultimate emotional glue holding this entire destructive system together. This pattern resolves the most agonizing question of toxic relationships: why people stay long after the abuse becomes visible. First identified by clinical psychologist Patrick Carnes in his 1997 work, a trauma bond forms through repeated cycles of intense pain followed by sudden relief, all occurring within a severe power imbalance. The biological conditioning mimics physical addiction, making the prospect of leaving feel like a life-threatening withdrawal. Breaking this bond requires a complete refusal to play the game, primarily through a strategy known as the gray rock method. By making yourself flat, boring, and completely unresponsive, you starve the manipulator of the emotional fuel they seek. There are no angry outbursts, no defensive arguments, and no pleas for closure, just an empty, uninteresting facade. Over time, this total lack of reinforcement causes the bond to decay, returning your autonomy. The ultimate escape from dark psychology is not a dramatic confrontation, but absolute, cold disengagement. By choosing to walk away and remain completely unreachable, you reclaim your reality and become a person these tactics can no longer touch. Subscribe to uncover more hidden psychological dynamics and protect your mental peace. Across all 7 patterns, one truth emerges. Manipulation is a systematic, quiet trap. The real danger is not the emotional chaos, but the illusion that you can reason with it. Power does not come from winning their game, but from refusing to play. Subscribe for more insights on human behavior.